Hello, everyone. This is Patrick Halstead at Qdabra, and welcome to our weekly webinar. Thank you for being here. We're really glad to see you here. And we have a quick poll to start off with. Today, we're talking about kind of an interesting technique that we have had on the back burner for quite a while. We have this quick question for you. If you can just say yes, no, or I don't know. Hopefully, you can see that. We're talking about rich text controls, and rich forms have rich text controls because rich text looks good. And this is one of the differences between the forms that we provide and other technologies out there today, like, for example, Microsoft Forms or Google Forms, SurveyMonkey Forms, whatever. You can do rich text, and that's a huge win, and we're going to talk about that today. So thanks for answering the quick question here. It looks like everyone has rich text controls. That's great to hear. We're going to do four things today. We're going to talk about, we're going to show two demos actually, one for the rich text control and one for differencing, or we're diffing the rich text controls from one to another to show histories, to show revision history. And we've done this before. The last demo here we have, the second demo is going to be the bonus, and we'll talk about that. I'm really happy to have Don Frack here with me. Don's one of our longtime support engineers and testers and form developers, and he's going to also show you how to add this technique to your form. So we'll start off though with a quick demo, and let's just do that real quick. So we have a site, a demo site here, and we have a list. The list has a bunch of rich text in it. So this is SharePoint does support rich text in lists, and you can see here I've got a list with 5 different rows and some interesting rich text in here. I've got a form that's going to query this list, and in fact, I'll just show you that. I've got the form open here, but I'll just open it again. So this form on open, it actually queries that list, and it gets those 4 values. And if I click on these buttons, it's going to copy the rich text from the secondary data source into the main data source, and you'll see it here on the right. So this is the first one, and I think this is the second one, and so on. And you can see this is rich text. We've got formatting and everything. We can also type in rich text manually. This is the first sample here. This is not from the list. You can see here we've got bold and italic there. And you can see that rich text is different than regular text because it's got this formatting. And that's the main difference with rich text and the regular text, is that you need to have tags in there where you have this more interesting stuff like images, for example. Images have an image tag. This last one here is, I need to scroll down a little bit to show you this last one. There's 2 more. This is a longer rich text sample from one of our help tutorials on the Excel to XML tool. And then the last one is this one here. So you can see here that this text, if you look at it closely, it's got a bunch of HTML tags in it. And rich text is a form of XML HTML. So HTML is the hypertext markup language used in the web browser. And the forms use a version of it. It's not exactly the same as the HTML. It's got a little bit of a different markup. And there's a couple gotchas that we'll talk about in a second regarding that. But you can see here, I look at my command history, and every single time I'm clicking on those buttons, it's actually setting an XML value to the rich text. So this is the rule that you're going to use to copy it from your secondary data source to your main data source. Now, you may not need to copy it. You may just want to edit it. And in that case, you'll probably just have rich text control, right? Because you don't need to copy it. So the real technique that we're showing today is how to copy it, which is a little tricky, and that's why we're showing this technique. We had a customer ask us about this last September. Now I can actually print this, and this is the other benefit of rich text, is this ability to print it. Let me get one that's really long here. And this is using the Forms Viewer PDF rendering command. render is the command, and you can see there it is rendered nicely in a multi-page format. If I go back to the form and look at the command again, we should be able to see that command bottom here. We're hiding the debug history in this little version control at the bottom, and you can see if I scroll down, I have that render form command there. So it's just basically, that's a really simple command. We've covered that in the past, and it's just rendering the form with a view, a print view, and so that's how easy that is. Let's take a look at the form in the designer. Here's our forms designer. We're getting close to calling this a fully fledged replacement for InfoPath Designer, and you can see here that I've got the canvas on the left with my form view. I can switch to the other view for printing, which is, I think, pretty simple, actually. Nothing is in here except for the one field, so that's pretty much not worth showing. But if I go back to the main view, you can see I got my buttons. I can click on the buttons and look at the rules for them, and that's what we're going to do next. Get this webinar control out of the way. So on load, we have a rule that is actually, Don's going to show you how to add this to your form in a second, but I'll just go through it real quick. So on load, we've got a rule that is setting the rich text. Actually, on load, we have 3 rules. They're all action rules. It's setting the current user. It's running some commands to update the data source, and then it's querying the list using a REST-based query. And it's setting the query here, and then it's actually querying it. So once we've queried the list, then when we click on these buttons, this is the one that does it from the form, so it's just manual. And this button is just essentially doing that set XML that you saw in the command history there. So it's got, it sets the XPath and then it runs the command to set the XML, I believe. Let's see if we can look at that here. So that's setting the, maybe I'm confused by this, Don. Maybe you can jump in here. The, if we go back, this is the set rich text rule. The first one, where's the set XML here?
It's at the XTP logic data connection.
Okay, I'm having a hard time switching to the rules for this control. So you're saying that I need to go into the other data source because it's setting the
data source.
Okay, so it's setting the XPath, and then there's a rule underneath that you're saying is, okay, let me go back to that.
So we're setting the set rich text field to the XPath.
Okay, so you see that there's a rule here that runs this value. It sets the value equal to go, and then it's running another rule for this one. Is that right, or is it this one?
It's a set rich text.
Okay. Okay, here we go. So here are all the rules then. If we set that value in the secondary data source, that's part of the XML template part that Don's going to show you how to add your forms, and you'll get these commands by default, and you won't have to add them to your form. So you'll just have it pre-configured, so to speak. And you can see there's the command that's actually running the set XML there. And okay, well, I'll let you show that, Don, in a second, but I just wanted to show people that you can look at those values using Forms Designer. And I guess this is a good time to switch back to the slides real quick. Why would you want to do this? Well, if you're copying rich text from those lists, you need to be careful. There are a few gotchas. And when you do the copying, the main gotcha is the gotcha with line breaks. So let me just quickly jump to that slide. So that if you have a line break, this BR tag, for some reason it's not coming through with the correct markup, which would be a closing. It has to have a closing slash or a closing bracket, and so we have to replace that to add that. And I'm not sure why SharePoint has that gotcha in it, but that's just something to be aware of, is that you do need to replace the string if you have line breaks and you're pulling it from a list. And we saw that when we went in our form a minute ago, when we looked at the actual command history. There was this replace string here. So it's doing that every time we click on the button for all those different list items. So that's the only gotcha that I think we need to really talk about. So the rich text is good. You want your form to look good. You want to allow people to highlight parts of the text so you can convey the content more quickly and more beautifully. And then we have another demo at the end here. I'm going to let Dawn show you how to add this to your forms first, and then we'll come back and we'll do the bonus demo. Dawn, are you ready?
Yes, Patrick.
Okay, great. I'm just going to make you a presenter. If you have questions, this is a great time to add them to the comment in the webinar, go to webinar. Okay, now I can see your screen.
Okay. So I already have here a starter form. It has two fields. One is for the HTML. This is just a regular text field, and this is the rich text field. Okay, so assuming that you already have the set rich text XTP here, you should go to the custom controls and add it. Okay, now after adding the XTP, first we need to configure Q roles. So we need to point this to the command node, and for the rest, we need to point them to the result, success, and error fields of Q roles. And when you're done, all you need to do is set the rich text. I'm just adding a name of the role that we have there, and we're setting a node to the XPath of the source. Okay, so we need to set this field to the XPath, and we also need to set the result or the destination XPath. Here. And we're done. I just need to upload this to Forms Viewer. It's that quick to add this control to your form. Just add it under my name.
And you're just following the instructions that you had in the XTP, right?
Right. We have the instructions here. And this is going to be hidden. Okay, going back to the form, let's grab an HTML here. And there you go.
Cool.
It's that easy. And if we change it, it's going to quickly change the result, which text.
So you could actually just copy HTML from a web page in there, that's probably what you're doing to test it, right?
Right.
Showing the source code, yeah. Yeah, so this really quick technique that we've got for you today, and this is all part of the XML template part that we'll send you as part of the package for the webinar. Dawn's, thank you very much, Dawn, for putting together this nice sample XTP. We do plan to support adding XTPs, more XTPs to Forms Designer. Right now, we're still using InfoPath Designer for that. That's one of the features that we eventually will have probably 20 or more pre-baked XTPs in Forms Designer. Right now, we just have the dynamic data connections. This probably won't make it. This one won't probably make it into the 1.0 launch because it's a relatively esoteric, corner case kind of feature request. This ability to copy rich text, but you can still go back to InfoPath Designer to add it because we have backward compatibility, and we will be adding these in the future. Probably later this year, we'll be adding a boatload of XTPs for all the webinars we've done. The most common ones first. This one may not make it until later in this year in terms of the Forms Designer support. Thanks so much, Son.
Thank you
Okay.
too.
Yeah, this is great. Any questions for us? We've got another short demo for you, and that is to talk about diffing, which is really cool, actually. Let me show you how to do that. Actually, I'm just going to show you the result. So this is another form that we're launching in Forms Viewer, obviously, because that's how we launch all of our forms. And you can see the sample here has different, basically there's a bunch of different options. We demoed this in a webinar, I want to say it was last year. It's on our, it was 2019. So it's 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. And you can get this webinar. I'll include a link in the PowerPoint slide. You can just click on this and go to it. We had a customer, actually, I think Chris, you're here. So Peter actually did part of this webinar for us a couple years ago, and we showed this technique there. The technique is, going back to the sample here, it shows you how to display differences between rich text versions. And this is really short. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but just to show you that you can actually highlight things that changed in your document, kind of like the Word revision tracking history, but we're using rich text. So obviously this technique does require adding some logic to your form that is in addition to what Don showed. So this obviously you need to keep the history. And I think I have the form open in the designer here, and we can take a look at this. You can see that there is this repeating node here, rich text row, and it has revision text in it, and it has a version. Well, where's the version? I don't know where the version is. Maybe it's pulling it from a list. Yeah, so we've got a list that we're querying to pull the different versions. Every time they save it, we submit the new version to the list, and then we're diffing it using this command. And if we look at the curls history, you'll see that command here, diff rich text. So basically what it does is it just it's diffing two things. It's diffing the parent here, and then the actual before. So the before, the from, and the to. You have to obviously have two versions. The parent path is current, and then the before path points to the previous version. Sure, maybe that's not true. There's a before and after, so I've got that wrong. But you can see the command right there. And then when it runs, it basically shows the difference between them down below here, and we're displaying that. So this is a clever technique that Mel Clemente worked on several years ago, and we've actually featured it in a previous webinar. So you can actually do diffing of rich text version. They have to save all the different versions, but assuming you have that, you can actually show what was changed in between the different versions, and that's really cool. Any questions on this stuff? That's pretty much it for today. We've got the short rich text demo and this differential text revision tracking. And I just want to obviously do a quick shout out here for our Qdabra Forms technology. We have this wonderful product that's called Forms Viewer and now Forms Designer, and they allow you to move your forms off of InfoPath with minimal effort. We're still the only app out there that allows you to do that without recreating the forms from scratch. So that's the reason why we built it, was to give you a quick migration path. And we look forward to having you here next week. Hope you guys all have a great day. I'll get this webinar posted on YouTube, send the link out, and we'll send out the package. We just have a short 3-question survey at the end here. And if you could just answer that, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks, Don.
Sure thing. Bye, everyone.
Bye.